today talking about our businesses and virtual assistant businesses and how we can begin to hire other virtual assistants, and we want to help you do that. We have Nanette with us, and there's Nanette, and she is from In Essence. She also works another full-time job, so she's going to help us. Lisa is off camera at the moment, but she'll be joining us in a minute, and she's with Augusta Virtual Assistants. And then our guest today is Denise, and she owns Out of the Office, and so we're looking forward to her and the answers she's going to give us on some questions. And feel free, please, to post your comments and questions. We'd love to answer them today and hope we can get to everything. So we're excited you're with us and look forward to answering those. To start out, Denise, would you mind giving us just a little information about who you are and what you do?
So I'm Denise. I'm the owner of Out of the Office Virtual Assistants. I have been doing this since February of 2006, and prior to that, I worked corporate America jobs, Vermont, my last gig before I decided to take the plunge and stay at home and earn more money and have a better quality of life. And I love my clients. They're just awesome. And that makes sense because in order for a client to become a client, they have to pass the is awesome to work with test. And we do a variety of services. We're generalists. We don't specialize in a niche. We specialize in a type of client. We work with people who are betters. They make the world a better place, whether they're doctors or coaches or hackers or whatever it is. They do something that makes the world a better place. That's it.
So, do we ask, I guess we can get started and ask the first question then, since we're all here about becoming a multi-VA service. And I guess for me, the first question I like to know is, when do you consider hiring a subcontractor? And when you make that decision?
I don't hire anybody, period.
Oh.
Because hiring implies employment.
Right.
Don't employ. I don't want to deal with Obamacare. I don't want to deal with payroll taxes. I don't want to deal with any of that crap.
Right.
I want to work with contractors. We're all contractors to our clients. And so I partner or contract with other VAs.
Okay.
It's pretty easy. And I know it seems like semantics, but the word hire does have that connotation,
right,
and that implication. So it doesn't matter whether I'm talking with a potential client, an existing client, potential contractor, whatever. I always say, just to be upfront, and I know I'm being a stickler for terms, I am not hiring you. You're not an employee. You do not work for me. You work with me. You are my contractor, and you're my partner in business. I want you committed as much to my business as I am to yours and to our clients. And I think when you approach someone with that mindset, they realize that they understand the terms. It's all laid out for them. And, to me, that I'd rather be transparent about that kind of stuff than to find, like, 2 years from now that someone I've partnered for 2 years considers themselves an employee. And I have a legal issue. Oh my God.
That's a great point to make, Denise, because we aren't hiring employees. And if we did, that would get into all of those issues with employment taxes and Social Security, as well as all the federal, regulations that go along with it, with the Obamacare and everything else. So it is really important that they understand, and even in a contract, that it states that they are 1099 and that,
Right,
they have to do their own taxes and everything else. I love the way you say it, too, that you're partnering with them. And it empowers them in their business, to do what they need to do as well. And I love that's how you refer to it. So if we go back to that and we say, okay, so these are VA subcontractors or contractors, what point in your business, I guess at what point, when you're putting in a certain number of client hours per week, do you say, okay, I'm getting too busy, I'm going to hire, or what point for you do you make that decision?
It's a combination of things. And that's one thing that I drive people to utter annoyance with, is there's no single, I never give a single answer for anything. Usually my answer is it depends. If I have an existing client who I manage my time. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, a client says, hey, I'm holding a summit next month and I need someone to do all of this. And basically all of my time is blocked for this. I'll reach out and say, okay, either something has to give. So we have options. Do I reprioritize some of your stuff? I'll talk to some of my other clients and see if I can reprioritize some of their stuff, or should I just have someone else help me with this? And when you tell a client that you're booked and you don't want to overbook, they have a lot of respect for you for being human, for saying no, for saying that, okay, I am not super willing to break my boundaries for 6 weeks for your project because you didn't give me any notice, So when I contract with another VA to help out in something like a project, I want to make sure that it's worth their while. If you do the math, you work average of 20 days a year. Oh, a year, I wish. 20 days a month. And if you're only going to give that VA 10 hours in that month, that person that you're contracting with, well, okay, maybe you should suck it up and take one for the team, because it's only 30 minutes a day that you have to add to your schedule. And 30 minutes a day, you can cut back on your social media monitoring. You can cut back on your blog writing. You can write shorter posts. You can post only once a week instead of twice a week. So that 30 minutes you can actually handle. When it gets to be more of an hour a day, then you say, okay, I need help. I need someone to come help me with that. So that would be one case where where you've managed your time so effectively that you know that you can't actually squeeze anything else into that day, and you're extending your hours either in the morning or the night, or heaven forbid on the weekends, to make that happen. Then you say, okay, I want to make sure it's worth their while and it's consistent. The other thing, you could have an existing client who wants to add a new gizmo to their repertoire, and you don't have the skill set. I know how to use WordPress. I know how to read HTML code. Heaven forbid if I ever had to actually create a theme from scratch. I would shoot myself. It wouldn't be time effective for me or the client. So, you have someone else help you. You contract with someone who's either a designer or a coder to make that happen. As I know how to use social media, the ins and out of creating a Facebook campaign, not exactly the strongest suit for me, because I don't use Facebook that much, or just like those little things. If you know someone who is just a maven with a certain thing, whatever that thing is, get them on board, but make it worth their while. Don't give them, here, post my 10 things into Hootsuite today. That's not worth their effort to even log in. Suck it up, eat a smaller lunch, and get down and do it yourself. So make it worth their while, because at the end of the day, you want to have that empowerment. You want to help them grow their business. And by you giving them an hour a week, that's not helping them grow their business, ever. It's more of an annoyance.
Well, yeah, you bring up really good points about that, because it's interesting. From what I understand you saying, most of the time you only hire when you get additional projects, not additional clients. Would that be correct?
Pretty much. Right now I'm at pretty much at the capacity that I have enough work and enough billable hours to keep the lights on, and that makes me happy. It's cold here in the winter. We don't want to lose heat and light. That's bad. But, you know, if I had someone like, oh God, like Richard Branson knock on my door and say, hey, can you work for me a little bit on the side doing some personal assistant work? Well, hell yeah. So, you know, I would definitely say, okay, I need someone to help me with my existing clients because, you know, he's got money. But, but you know, I mean, if some new client came knocking on your door and it was someone that really resonated with you, they had a great message or a great cause, or they really ideally fit that is a better, you know, yeah, you bring someone in to maybe handle your existing clients because you already have that process, you already have that system down, and it's probably already documented between you and the client, and you just say, okay, I've just signed a new client that is going to take my priority at first so I can get on board well with them. I have Jane here. She's going to help that stuff, but I want you, A, to meet her first in a Hangout or a Skype conversation, because if you don't like her, if the personality isn't there, if there's not a mesh, we won't use her. And I have no problem saying, I'm sorry, Jane, you know, the client isn't comfortable with you. I don't, you know, and you can explain why if you know, but if you don't, sometimes it's just a gut thing, you know.
Right.
So just be upfront with your client that you're going to be shifting some of the responsibilities over to them. And when you do that, do your due diligence. Find out what your contractor has for security, what their, you know, all of those interview questions that we get asked. What's their home security? What do you do when your computer crashes? Where are you accessing the internet? You know, those kind of things. And, you know, if your client says, yeah, no, then yeah, no. You find someone else, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, being as transparent as you can is really important with that.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing, because you're talking about some of the questions and the things that you do to vet somebody or bring them onto your team, what do you think is the most important, or one of the most important things that helps you either see on a resume or in a hangout or discussion with that person that says, yes, that's the person I can work with, or, you know, what is the thing you are looking for when you hire others?
Contract, not hire.
That's right. Sorry. You caught me.
Unless I'm in a pinch where, you know, we all find ourselves in this situation at one point or another in our career where our client says, I need you to do this now. You know, like, I need someone to handle XYZ, and it's going to start Monday, and it's like Wednesday, and you're like, in that case, that's a total separate instance, and I'll talk about that after. But generally, I don't review resumes at all. They're pointless because they lie. It's a piece of paper, you know, or a virtual piece of paper. Whatever you write on that could be a total fabrication. It probably isn't. 95% of the time it isn't. But why should I invest the time in reading something that could be a lie? So if I'm looking for someone to do transcription, which I hate to do, I can do it, but I'd rather slit my wrists and roll around in my own blood. I mean, it just is not my thing. So when it came time that I needed a transcriptionist, I thought about some of the people in the VA community, and I was like, I recall so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. They all do transcribing. And then I thought about the posts and the comments that they wrote in posts and how they handled themselves in the casual conversation in social media. And then I reached out to them and said, hey, I got this gig for transcribing, you know, this is what it is, you know, you're transcribing X videos, they're about this long, you can send them to me, you know, as docs, text files, whatever, send me whatever you want, I can make anything work, what's your rates, and if you're interested, if you have time, if you're taking on new clients, let's have a conversation. And so for me, it's really already predetermined. I've already met in social media this person and found that whatever they're saying, whether it's an actual post or a comment to a post or posing a question, I've already found them, I've deemed them worthy of partnering with me now. I have found them to be someone that I want to work with, that that would be a good addition to the team and that I can rely on. So resumes, no. So it's really looking at the person based on what I'm seeing on LinkedIn, on Google+. I don't do much on Facebook or Twitter, even though I have profiles there, but it's really seeing how they converse with others. Now, if it's in the case where you are in that crash situation where you have to get somebody, I will just reach out to a couple of my LinkedIn groups, a couple of my communities, and say, hey, I need someone to do this. And when I have this, it's already determined by the client. I know the budget, I know the tasks, I know the outline of everything. So I have pretty much a full description of what needs to get done. And if anybody's interested, email me. Don't message me, just follow, and that's the thing, follow the instructions that whomever posts, follow them. If they say email, don't shoot them a personal message, shoot them an email. Don't text me, don't, just follow the rules. And I'll look at what their email says. Again, it's evaluating them on their correspondence and seeing how they talk. I'm pretty laid back as far as my personality goes, but I do like what I do. I love my clients and I love helping them. And if someone's just kind of punching the clock, yeah, I'll do it and I can help out, if they're like not passionate about it, I'm less inclined to follow up with them. And and then after that, after I've made an initial cut, I say, okay, I got 3 people, never more than 3 because I'd shoot myself. Let's have a half-hour hangout or Skype video call, and it has to be video. So if you can't get over the fact, if you're not a techie and you can't get into the video thing, sorry. You may be the A+ person for the job, to do this, but I need to have a comfort level. I need to see your body language. I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. There's a running joke in the family that if I had to sit on my hands, I would stutter, and I actually generally do. But, I want to see when people are talking, if they're excited, if they're, if you're just sitting there, yes, I like to do data entry. No. I mean, let's face it, data entry is never exciting, ever. But, if you like what you do because it gives you so many other benefits, because, you can make enough money doing that, you have a better quality of life, or, you're not trekking 35 miles up to the city each way for a commute, okay, But if you're just kind of blah, I don't want to work with blah. I want to work with woo! I want to work with crazy, wild people who are really enthusiastic about what they do. And if they can't deal with that in me, I don't want to work with you either. So, it has to have that good mesh. It's not about chasing the millions of dollars, as if. It's really about working with awesome people doing good stuff, and you get paid a little on the side. That helps.
So true. I know. I have been doing the Google chats and video lately too when I am interviewing, and it's a huge difference because you can see them one-on-one, and it really does make that difference to be able to communicate and see their eyes, everything. So I agree totally with that. I think it's so important, to be able to see that. Nanette, I think you had another question, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I'm here. You sort of touched on it when, which is, what is the first step to beginning to build a team, and you sort of touched on it for you, it seems that it's on an ad-need basis, and you look to make sure there's a fit and personality. For me, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's great, and I'm at the point where I am busy, and there's probably some offloading I need to do, and it's sort of like the chicken and the egg thing. When do you do it? And also, personality is important, and I have to connect with the person that I'm giving some work to. But also, I want to make sure that they have the type of that they manage their time well and they communicate well, because that's I don't want to chase people down. So I guess, the other question is, how do you start working and building that team?
Well, if you've kind of, maybe it's just me, I hate to use the word judge, but I size people up very well. I don't need a lengthy conversation or a lot of time. I don't need to invest a lot of time in finding people. If I wanted someone, for example, to be a mod for the community, I have a predetermined list based on what y'all have said in the community already. That's why I know that when we needed another mod, I knew who to ask, because it was at the top of my list. And it's the same way with finding someone in your team. I've already kind of judged. I've already seen them. I've seen what they can do. I see how they handle themselves. I follow their blog. If it's anybody even remotely interesting, I follow their blog. As someone who reads way too much, why not? Read everything you can. And so I already have seen what their personality is. I see what their cycle is, if they blog once a week, once a month, if they're haphazard, those kind of things. So I already know, I already have a good feel for what they're like. And then in that video conversation, you're always going to ask those standard interview questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And people are, for the most part, they will go on and on about their weaknesses, and their strengths are just this little bitty, yeah, I'm great, a little thing, because we're so much harder on ourselves. So you just look at those weaknesses and say, okay, admits to not being a great communicator. If you can live with that, if you know that an email will get answered within 48 hours instead of 24, and you can live with that, go for it. Address it if it does become an issue. But, if you really actually read the social element of social media when someone posts, you're really going to have a good idea for their personality. And don't be afraid to part ways with somebody. If it doesn't work out, I'm not saying, 2 days later, oh my God, they don't get it. But, if after 2 weeks it's really not progressing, not moving, it's not even close to where you thought it would be, end it, move on. Life's too short.
That's a good point. Do you put them on a trial period, Denise? Like, do you go into it saying, okay, we'll give it 2 weeks, we'll give it a month, 2 months, and if it doesn't work out for either of us, then we'll just part ways? Or how do you work that out as well?
I'm a dork, a geek, nerd, whatever you want to call. Generally, anything that I give out, I know how to do. Maybe not on a grand scale. Again, going back to WordPress themes, I don't know how to create it from scratch, but let me tell you, I can read code. So I have a basic understanding. Photoshop. I love Photoshop. Use it all the time, every day. Could I sit down and paint the Mona Lisa from scratch? Oh, hell no, not unless I use Google Images first. So, you start them out slow, and you provide them with the tools they need. So if they're doing a specific task, you provide a video on how you do that task, and you upload it to YouTube. Say, okay, I need you to do this, and this is how I do it. This is to the best of my knowledge, the most time-effective way to do said task. If you come up with a better way or a faster way to do it, then share it with me because I want to know. I want to learn. But provide them with an operating manual, so to speak, for that task, in addition to the video. Because basically when you make the video anyway, you're going to be generally reading off somewhat of a script. And just pretty it up so they have a written piece, a video piece, the two go together, and you move forward. If they still don't get it, you know, just say, hey, this is just clearly not working. You're frustrated. I'm frustrated. Let's call it a day. And if it doesn't work out, I still may contact that person for something in the future because I saw the potential for something else. You know, there was something in them that I liked that, you know, that they can do. Just maybe now is not the best time.
Absolutely. I think that is a great point, Denise. And I really, we were kind of laughing about this earlier, but I think there's a question that Nanette wants to ask, and we don't know the answer to this, but apparently it's very intriguing, so we're interested to hear. Go ahead, Nanette. Oh, unmute.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I thought I did that. What is the #1 question you ask a candidate or someone that you want to work with?
Y'all sitting down, right? So, like I said, I've already kind of sized up someone, and I'm pretty sure I want to work with them.
Yep.
So the #1 question I ask everybody at some point in that initial conversation: what offends you?
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have had some sort of conversation with you. I've seen what you write. But do I know you? No, I don't. Do you know me? Maybe, but probably not. I say, you know, as much as I joke about being open and everything, there's a lot of my personal life that people don't know, and I don't want them to know. I have a husband for that. I have a business partner for that, and they kind of know what's going on. Good God, I have my parents. They have so much dirt on me, it's not even funny. But if you are not sensitive, that's too weak of a word. If you are against something, opposed to something, you are just not down with something, you have to realize that I don't want to hear about it. If you don't support gay rights, that is your opinion, and that is fine. But you have to be able to work with me knowing that I support gay rights. And I'll give you an example of why this is important. Some time ago, I posted on the community something along the lines of your goals for this year, for 2014, and where you want to go, what do you want to do. And everybody said, you know, I want to get 2 new retainer clients, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And I was very honest, and I said, well, I want to increase the people I work with. I want to work more with gay right advocates. And someone from the community took the time, effort, and energy to write me a very lengthy message about how I was going to help. Now, and this person was nice about it, except for that last little part and such. But it kind of sucked some of the energy out of me. And while they are totally and 100% entitled to their opinion, I don't really care. I don't want to hear about it. Just like, you know, it's like talking around the water cooler. There's stuff you talk about and there's stuff you don't talk about. So I want to know, does cursing offend you? Because Lord knows, I can F-bomb the devil to his grave. You know, if that bothers you, I need to know. I will actually monitor my cursing, which I try to do, but not always. If you're, you know, I have worked with some people who have definitive concerns about the Middle East. Okay, I don't want to hear about it. and it should not enter into the workplace. Likewise, I'm not going to sit there and be spewing all of my beliefs to anybody that I partner with, except for Benjamin, because, you know, he's involved in the daily ops and he's, you know, my best friend. So he gets that no matter what, even if he doesn't like it or doesn't agree with me, which is often. But, you know, it's you have to have that, you have to have a good mesh. And if you don't, if you can't agree to disagree, then let's not go there, you know. So I want to know what the hot buttons are, because I don't want to come in on a Thursday morning when I'm tired and cranky and grumpy and someone to be spewing about X, Y, and Z. I just don't want to hear it, you know. Likewise, they don't want to come in on a Monday morning and me, you know, spewing A, B, and C, because it doesn't jive with their personal belief system. As a general rule, I try to limit all religious conversation to, I don't feel religion belongs in business, so I don't go there. I just say, you know, hey, I just would prefer to talk about it because my personal belief system, and, you know, I'm not mean about it, I'm not going to hell, well, I probably am, but, you know, it's just, we just don't have that conversation. So that's my big one. I want to know what that hot button is. And then if you're going to obviously ask, you know, the normal questions, I want to know when they're working. Not because so I can assign them tasks or know that they're online. It's actually just the opposite. I want to make sure that they have a work-life balance. So if they say that their normal hours are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's a red flag, because I don't want them working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I want them to be with their family or doing crazy wild kid stuff or whatever. Just, I want them to have a work-life balance. I don't want them working at 2 in the morning when, to accommodate my schedule. No. You have your office hours, you work your office hours. Don't go out of your way to change things for me, you know. I don't mind taking one for the team every once in a while, but on a regular basis, hell no.
Answers, good to hear about. I wasn't necessarily shocked, but I was a little shocked at what you heard back on some things, and so that's very interesting. And I think that really is an important thing to ask people what offends them. I had never thought about that. And I'm going to add that now to the questions that I ask, because you don't want to offend people. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to have disagreements and things because you stand for one thing and they stand for another. And although you may not talk about it, and may come up in other ways, and you just, you know, may not mesh in that way. And so I think that is an important thing to ask. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is definitely one I'm adding to my list. Hi, Lisa. I think you have a question now as well.
Hey, Denise. Can you hear me?
Barely. Can you speak up a little?
I don't know if I can. Can y'all hear me?
Can you guys hear her, Nanette?
No, I don't.
No? Okay.
Okay. Well, I can barely hear you, so go ahead, and if they don't hear you, I'll repeat it.
Can you hear me? No?
Go ahead and ask your question, and I'll repeat it.
Okay, let's try again. Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. Go ahead. Just go ahead, and we'll.
All right. My question for you, Denise, is do you allow the client to work directly with the team member or subcontractor that you bring on? Or do you deal with the client directly and you just pass information and tasks back and forth between them?
Okay, Denise, did you hear any of that?
I didn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Basically, Lisa was asking, do you allow your subcontractor contractor direct access to your client? In other words, is the client and the contractor for you allowed to interact with one another?
I do require that they at least meet each other in video chat, just like I require meeting a potential contractor. I feel that it is really important that your client knows who's working on their stuff, you know. But to answer your question, it's the official, it depends. You know, if you have someone, you know, like I hired a subcontractor to basically do a ton of data entry for an existing client, and I said to the client, it's not really time effective for me to sit down and do this when I can hire someone and do other stuff for you. And she's like, oh, whatever. Do what you need to do, girl. You know, I've also been with her for 5 years, so there's a little bit of trust built up there. And in that instance where it's, you know, really no need for them to interact with the client, then, you know, they don't need to know. However, one of my clients is very personal, and I have a specific task, and sometimes it's in the research end, and sometimes it's just easier to not get involved. Just let them, the two parties, get together, and then when they come to a consensus, just let me know what that is. You know, when you're trying to figure out what someone is looking for specifically, sometimes it's just easier for them to go out and say, okay, I've tried this, this, and this is not working. And then they'll have a conversation with the client and then go off on a totally different tangent and get the results. So it really does depend. The one thing I do always say, though, is if you're working with any client who might, where you need to be concerned about HIPAA compliance, then generally don't outsource that stuff. Just because it's not worth the risk, the hassle for you or the client. But, you know, if it makes sense to have them interact with the client, great. And if it doesn't, then don't. Just make sure that you kind of prep both the client and the subcontractor about, you know, I've talked to my subcontractor, and this is what I feel her strengths are and what she can bring to the table. And likewise, you tell the contractor, this is the client. She's absolutely amazing. A little flighty, though. I'm just warning you. So kind of prep them for that introduction, and so that it's not like a total culture shock when they do actually get together on Skype.
Sure. I know that I too have a client who we're going to be doing a lot of subcontracting to, and he was just like, you know, you do your thing, like you're saying, you do your thing, go ahead and not hire, but get the contractors you need to get, and I don't need to know who they are. As long as the work's getting done, it's getting done. And that's, you know, that's kind of nice too, you know, that he wasn't worried about it. He trusted me enough to get the person that's going to do the work, you know, for us. I think Lisa has another question. I can barely hear you. Go ahead and try.
Okay. Denise, can you hear me well? No? Can you hear me? No.
I hear you barely. Go ahead, Lisa, and I'll repeat it.
Okay. How do you have your subcontractor keep up with their time?
And Lisa, or Denise, you probably didn't hear that, right? Oh, okay. Basically, Lisa was asking how you keep track of time, or how you ask them to keep track of their time. Is it something you can see and view, or do you trust them to just turn it in? How does that work for you?
Again, it depends. Some of the contractors that I work with are not time-based. They're by piece. Writers, for example. I pay per piece. I have one client where they specifically just write content, 2 blog posts a week for a couple of clients. So, you know, I give them a budget. I'm like, 600 to 800 words. Here's your price. If you want to do it, great. If not, okay, I'll find someone who will. And so when it comes to per piece, I don't really care. The client pretty much determines the budget, and it's just a pass-through. They provide the articles and invoice me. I pay the invoice, and whatever that dollar value is, I pass right through to the client. I don't mark it up. I don't go there. Life's too short. If it's someone with an ongoing thing and it's where you do need to actually keep track of time, I know how long it takes me to do said item. So, if I say this task takes 5 minutes, it's going to take 5 minutes. It might take 7 if your internet connection's slow, and if you are hell on wheels when it comes to typing, it might take you 3. But 5 minutes. So if you have, 12 items that take 5 minutes, that's an hour of time, not 2 hours of time. So, I do monitor their hours. I do ask that they use some sort of time tracking tool. I prefer Toggle just because I can add them to the team and it's all in one place. But if they have something that they already use, whether it's Harvest or Timer Sync or, there's a bazillion timers out there. Whatever they use, I'll make it work. I have never been in the case where I've been burned on time, where someone has said, it took me 2 hours and I know it only took them 20 minutes. I've never run into that. The only thing that I do require is that they include any meeting time. After the learning curve, they have to include time for check-ins, because they do check in, whether it's email, email correspondence, or if there's an issue, or if it's just quicker, faster, easier to do a Hangout or a Skype call. But they include that time because they're still working, and they should be paid for it. And then again, it's a pass-through. Pass through the client, and the client pays for that as well. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes the engine go, is all of us working as a team. So usually at least every week for the first 6 weeks, I'm checking in, seeing what's going on, if there's any issues. Have they found a way to streamline the process? Have they gained any insights? Have they any suggestions? Because I am not the almighty. If someone can offer a way to make it better, or they don't like something in the process, something in the what we're doing or how we're doing it or the end result we're trying to achieve, because all of that's given to them up front. If the goal is to do this and we're kind of taking a long tangent to get there, let's figure out a way to make it better. After that, though, I kind of just let them go. It's like, problems, email me, stay in contact, but, you're your own professional. You should be able to do your gig, and, that's cool, If I don't like to micromanage because I find it to be an utter annoyance. It wastes my time, and it makes me grumpy. And a grumpy Denise is a bad, bad, bad thing. Trust me, my husband will agree, because he has the official title of the grumpy one. But yeah, I mean, life's too short to be bogged down in all those details. You've contracted with a professional. Well, sit back and let them do their job.
Thank you. That was a great explanation of what you do. And I think the fact that we need to, if we're hiring someone who's already a virtual assistant, it certainly gives, we are trusting them with our work, obviously, but the client work. And so if we're going to hire them and put enough trust into them, we certainly should allow them to keep their time. Now, one of the things that I do, and this has just been this year, I started using FreshBooks, which I really like. Now, it does cost if you have more than a few clients, more than one subcontractor or something like that. But for me, it's worth it because then I don't have to keep up with everything, and at the end of the year, I can just send my accountant all the forms or whatever. And I can also, on a daily basis, if I need to, go in there and see how many hours the subcontractors had, if I need to be aware of anything that to warn my client that something took longer, or things like that. And I do keep up with them as well, whether it be through email chats or whatever, even Google Hangouts, like you said. One of the other things that we wanted to ask you also was, what is the, and maybe I'm looking forward to this answer as well, Denise. But what is the, what is the one thing that you do not want to hear, see, whatever, whether in skills or character, from that subcontractor?
It's a couple of things. Poor grammar is going to be damn close to the top of the list, if not at the top. If I see in social media on a recurring basis that someone uses a lowercase I cringe. I die a little inside every time I see that. Typing "you-are" is for your. And like I said, I have worked with Benjamin. Benjamin entered the practice at the beginning of 2012. For those of you who don't know, Benjamin Green is my partner at Out of the Office. And he, first and foremost, is a family friend and has been well before he joined the group. He spent 25 years as a CNA or an LNA prior to that. So he was an orderly at a nursing home. So had no experience in the industry, you know, and when he came on board, he was a little rough around the edges. But he really wanted to do that. And when he moved to Vermont from the West Coast, he realized that commuting sucks in the winter. Snowy and crappy and bleh. Now, he is originally from Texas but lived in Oregon. And he uses this one word often and frequently, and it drives me nuts, and it's fur. Not fur like you got on the dog. Fur. I'm going to the store. Fur smokes. No. Four. Four. Fourscore, not fur score. So, if I'm talking with somebody and I hear fur, again, I die a little inside. So it all comes back to grammar. Using proper capitalization and punctuation. When you talk to somebody, it's great to get excited and get your words all jumbled up, but do not sit there and use poor slang. You know, curse all you want. I'm fine with that, but no. The other thing I really don't like is seeing bad mouthing, whether it's bad mouthing another VA that I may know, that you may not know I know, or your past clients or existing clients. We all have our problem child clients. I don't care if you work with betters. At some point or another, they become a problem child, for temporarily at least. You know, I make fun of a couple of my clients that, you know, one of them's this crazy hippie on the West Coast who never left the 60s, if you know what I mean. But I adore her, and she's so exciting to watch talk and is so passionate about what she does. But I never turn around and say, you know, say bad stuff about her to anybody, you know. So I don't like bad mouthing because it shows you as being petty. And if you were impugned by a client or another VA, consider it a life lesson. Move forward. Stop dwelling on the past and just keep going forward. Put the blinders on if you need to. There's no need for the drama or the bad mouthing, even if there's some really horrendous stuff that you've heard or experienced. You know. And then the other one is I prefer to see lots of we. Let's do this together. We are a team. You know, talking about the partnership between a subcontractor with myself and with my clients. It's all about moving that cog forward, moving that train. It's not about I, because there is no I. Well, there's me, and I'm great, but you know what I mean. It's all about us doing it as a team. It's not about me being the virtual assistant for the client. I'm so not down with that. So, you know, just ask lots of questions and, you know, be enthusiastic to move a team forward.
I couldn't agree more. I think, yes, that you have to really be a team player and work together, and it isn't about us, it's about the client and about doing the work for them. So I think that's really awesome. We did have a question, and I just want to real quick make a comment to it, because we don't have much time, and I still want, there's a couple things I think we wanted to ask still. So, but somebody, Cheryl, was asking, how do you get started to be a VA? And although we're not doing that here, I think it's still an important part. And one of the things that some virtual assistants, the way they start is actually to be a subcontractor for another virtual assistant, Cheryl. So that's a great way to get started with being a virtual assistant. And it sometimes helps you to draw the clients in and everything else, because I know sometimes starting as a virtual assistant, it's difficult to attract clients if you don't already have the social media and other things in place. But I hope that helps a little. Nanette, did you have a suggestion for her? Oh, you're muted, honey.
Sorry. I just jumped in. The first thing I did was go in forums, VA forums, like Denise's site, and there's a whole bunch out there, and start talking to people, and put it out there that you're looking for to work for someone, as a subcontractor. And I think that's a great beginning. Then you get feedback, you get people who are willing to share, and you can find people who are looking for what you have to offer.
Well, I think subcontracting is great.
Mm-hmm.
It was not the path I chose.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying my path is better. I'm an introvert. I know everybody here is probably just going, I am an introvert. I'm rather shy. And I started out freelancing because I got crazy mad computer skills. So there was stuff that I could do that other people needed. It worked out, and I didn't subcontract. And because I'm an introvert, it was hard just to open up, compounded by the fact that I have this insatiable, crazy, arrogance, ego thing going on. I know, duh. So,
And you're so modest.
I know, exactly. So, for me, it wasn't about going out and interacting with people. It was about building my brand and getting people to talk about me and refer me out. So for the first 8 months of the business, all I did was freelance project work. Then I met this crazy hacker from the West Coast, and I did project work for him, and he liked what I did and said, hey, I need an assistant, and you'd be really good at it. I want you to be my assistant. And I was like, no, oh no, no, no. That's too much like being an adult and wearing the big girl panties. I'm so not ready for that. Keep in mind, I was like, what, 36 at the time? So it wasn't like I was a spring chicken. And he kept bugging me. He was just constant push, 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 push. Finally, I was like, fine, I'll do it, but only for you. And then I discovered I actually had a talent for it. But by that point, I was already, I already knew enough people to keep the lights on. I was already getting referral work, and it was turning more into a real assistant kind of role where you're actually doing, making travel plans, taking care of social media, all of those kind of things. Now, I'm not saying, like I said, my path is not the right path for everybody. It worked for me, though, and I spent more time working on my brand in my downtime when I didn't have work, that when I was ready to hit it, head on, it was a piece of cake. It was good. So
it's kind of funny because in a way that's how I started as well. I was just looking for something from home because most of you know I'm disabled, and I bring on other disabled professionals to help. But so I needed to work from home and began working with an insurance agent who then told me, you could turn this into a business. And I was like, no way. And I was homeschooling at the time. And I'm like, you're just crazy. And sure enough, it started out slow and sure and to building where we are today. And but Yeah, like you. That wasn't my first thought. But I'm really glad because I love what I do. I absolutely love it. I know all of us here do love what we do too. So, and we're getting ready to just kind of close up. So I just wanted to make sure that, first of all, Lisa, I'm so sorry you couldn't ask a lot of questions today. But, you know, just so you guys know, Lisa has been bringing on subcontractors for some time, and she's been doing a great job at that. When we first started this conversation and then thought we need to bring it to you guys, it was because we were all in different places and doing the subcontracting type thing. Myself, I'm kind of in the middle, and Nanette's starting out with it. And bless her heart, she works full time too. So, but then Lisa has been quite experienced at this, at least for the last, I think, 5 years, right, Lisa? Is that correct?
Can you hear me?
3. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so she's been doing that for the last 3 years, and I've been doing it for a couple years now, even though I've been in business for 6. I've been doing it for a couple years now, but because I do mostly bring on disabled, it's quite a process, and so I've learned a lot, and I would say that we all have learned a lot through this. Any last comments from anyone?
Can anyone hear me?
I barely hear you, Lisa. Go ahead, hon. I'll repeat what you say.
Let Denise know how much I've enjoyed listening to her. We have a lot in common, being Italian. With the word hire, I also would rather say team member or contracting. And
I only heard the first part. I'm so sorry, but I know what we wanted to do was convey to Denise how much we appreciate you being on as a guest today. We're so grateful. You were our guinea pig, Denise.
Well, thank you
And
for
a great
having
one.
me, because, you know, I was all nervous. I was like, oh, no.
Oh, I can't believe you were nervous. But you did a great job for us, and you answered a lot of questions that people have, and I'm really grateful for that, and just very thankful for that. We are planning on having one of these once a month, and so for those of you out there, we'd love for you to join us once a month. Next month we'll be having it again, and we'll put out the HOA when we're going to be getting out there again. But in the meantime, we do have a page set up, VA to VA, so if you want to go ahead and post questions anytime, we'll be glad to help answer some questions and things like that. And if we can't answer it, we will try and get an answer for you. So, any other comments or questions as we sign off today?
Yeah, it's been great.
Nanette, did you have any comment? I know I learned a lot, and so Denise, I'm very grateful for that. You really did teach us a lot today, and a lot about what to do, what not to do, and we definitely need that. And so I am just really, really thankful for that. And I thank those of you who have joined us today, and appreciate your time too for taking the hour out. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Bye.
Thanks again for having me. I appreciate